Alright, so we're back in the world of Monster Hunter Wilds, and today I'm going to be showing you guys my Thunder and Ice Lance build. This build is designed for players who are looking to transition into the high ranks, and you want a build that's going to be pretty confident at dealing with every situation. We utilize both the Windpiercer Lance 3 as well as the Artisan Lance designed specifically for crit and the element of Thunder to have a pretty good mixture of not only really solid high defense from being a Lance, but also really solid offense, in that both of these weapons provide the best match up against pretty much every monster available in the game. If you're a fan of really high defense, really good offense, and just being able to man fight everything, this build is going to be perfect for you. Let's dive into the build. Alright, so before we dive into the build, let's talk about the build a little bit more so you have a better understanding of exactly who the build is for and how it's played. So the build is designed for players who are really looking for really good high crit chance on your build while also being able to man fight, as you're going to have a variety of buffs that can help you out. First buff that you're going to get a lot of is Weakness Exploit. This is a very common one and it should be a part of most builds. And what this does is basically whenever you're hitting weak points, you're going to get crit. This in combination with Burst, this is a skill that is designed around consecutive hits, giving you more stats, which we do a lot of as a Lance based character. It's going to give you some more increased damage, and it's going to be really useful to just take down opponents. Depending on the weapon that you have at the time, if you're actively doing counters and parrying correctly with your guard, you're going to get offensive guard, which again is going to contribute to giving you more attack. And if you're using an artisan weapon with this current build, you'll have a lot of counter attack, which means if an enemy decides to hit you and knock you back a little bit, you'll get some more increased attack, meaning you're going to be in the fray a lot, fighting a lot, and just basically trading with enemies, dealing a ton of damage. We also have a good amount of evade, so you can jump around, good stamina sustain, and as long as you're not doing your super guard mode, you're going to have even more crit because we do take advantage of a little bit of maximum might, good amount of crit and crit boost, and thunder attack as well as ice attack, which is going to be really synergistic to this build. With the basics out of the way, let's actually dive into each individual part so you understand how to make the build. Alright, so we are over on the build section now, and let's go over each part. So as you can see now, we have the Artisan Lance. We're going to talk about the weapons because we're utilizing two different weapons. First, the Artan Lance. The Artan Lance is a custom-made lance. I have a full-fledged video on the channel that's going to be linked down in the description that goes over how to craft this. I'm still going to tell you how to do it, but yeah, we will be using a Artan Lance. This one is only rarity 7, but nonetheless, it is a really nice lance. So how do you craft this? Well, essentially what you're going to do is go around the map and face off against enemies until you get the parts that you need to essentially craft. What I used specifically was 2 thunder affinities and 1 attack affinity for the lance, and this was how I was able to create this. And then I fully upgraded with the ores from the upgraded person. I got 3 rolls with elemental boost, 2 rolls with sharpness, as well as 1 roll with attack, meaning we got a ton of attack, a ton of element, and base it has some decent affinity with ton of sharpness, meaning we have a good amount of sharpness with this. We're going to be able to poke a lot, and if you've probably seen by some of the footage that you're seeing now, we're fighting off against some of the enemies with this weapon specifically, we deal some pretty solid all around damage, and yeah, you know, it's really solid. Going over what we specifically put in this, we put crit eye for the extra crit chance, and then we put crit boost for more crit damage. You can use whatever you can find at the time, but I'm using this because I am a crit focused build. It's kind of like a elemental crit build, and this is going to work really well. We also had thunder attack, which this is a very elemental focused build, so we wanted to get a little bit of extra thunder out of it. Now if you're not at the point where you can actually build a Artan Lance like the one I did there, or you're getting a little bit unlucky, you can go with the Ray Dao tree and get this Ray Dao tree, but the negative with this will be, as you can see on the right there, has way less attack, it's gonna have way less affinity, and it's gonna have way less elemental boost. And I do think the affinity is a little bit important. This is the only lightning lance available on the on the tree that I can tell, so it is going to be your best option. You can still use this and then eventually upgrade to it, but yeah, just keep in mind you're going to have to you're going to lose a lot of elemental damage. You're going to lose quite a bit of crit if you do decide to go this route, so ideally you go with the Artan Lance if you can. For our next weapon, we're going to be using the Windpiercer Lance, and the reason why we're using this lance is just to complement our Lightning Lance. The Lightning Lance actually covers almost half of the monsters in terms of weakness, and Ice covers also a pretty massive portion of it. The only monsters for the most part you can't really kill with this is like I mean, you can kill any monster with it, but like characters like Archveld is a little bit harder to deal with because he's like resistant to a dragon. But for the most part, you still have pretty good matchup with the extreme vast majority of the monsters with the setup, which is super nice. We got an offensive guard as well as a stream jewel in this. And offensive guard is going to give us the ability to get more attack whenever we actually parry, and then water attack is just more water attack. It's kind of the best we had to some degree, but it's an ice weapon, which actually a lot of the enemies who are weak to ice are weak to water, and so the water actually isn't bad. We also put a frost jewel in it, which is going to give us more ice attack, and again, we're just like super heavy against those people who are weak to ice and water, so that's kind of the concept of using this item. As you can see, this one is not the highest one. It's just Jin Dahad and then a few Harabami hides. It's like a very easy craft. You can eventually upgrade to this one if you really want to, but for the most part, all you really need to make this build work is just to get the Wind Lance 3, which is super nice because it's a super easy craft. Harabami is easy. Jin Dahad, you probably already hunted him 2 times, so you can just get a 3rd hunt on him, and then yeah, you just have a pretty solid weapon with good ice element and some decent slots on it. It's a really nice weapon. Next, for our helmet, we're going to be using the ebony helmet, and the reason why we're using this one is because it has burst. And if you're not familiar with what burst does, burst, after you hit multiple times, you will get increased stats. So after the 5th hit for this specific setup, because we have 4 of them, we're going to get an even bigger stat bonus, and this is going to just be something you do a lot of because you're always hitting a lot. You're lance, so you poke a lot, so it's like super easy to use. And then we put a counter strike jewel in this because we wanted to make it so that whenever we did get like knocked back a little bit, we're going to get some extra attack, which means we're a build that is designed around trading. Like, that's the whole purpose. Like, you jump in the fray, and you'll probably see in a lot of the footage, we're like standing our ground, we're fighting, we're dealing some good damage, we have really high defense, it's like a really engaging like parry style build. If you're a regular watcher of the channel, you know how I like playing games. I like defense, but I do like having offense with it. I like being engaged in the fight, and this is kind of how the build is structured. For our chest, we're going to be using the Rathalos Mail, and the reason for this is purely for weakness exploit. Once you get some exploiter jewels, you could argue going to something a little bit different, but yeah, for the most part, we're only getting this for the weakness exploit, because this is like one of the few good pieces with weakness exploit, and it's not even that great, if I'm being honest. Now, why are we using weakness exploit? Weakness exploit is going to give us 20% affinity because we have level 4 right now. Ideally, you want to get to level 5 for the 30, but we're still working on our gems. But anyway, you're going to get 20% whenever you hit a weak point specifically, which generally speaking, you're always aiming at weak points. And then whenever you're hitting wounds, which again, you should be generally aiming at. And then whenever you're hitting wounds specifically, you're going to get another additional 15, which is going to give you about 35 with this current build right now. This is super big. I don't see how you don't use weakness exploit in Monster Hunter unless you're going for like some crazy elemental build, but yeah, weakness exploit almost mandatory at this point. Counter strike, we talked about this. We're going to be using a counter strike jewel because we want more counter strike for more extra damage. For our chest, we're going to be using the ebony Odogaron, which is going to have burst on it. We already talked about burst, more stats whenever you're attacking. And then we're going to get the Archveld Coil, which is going to have weakness exploit 2 as well as recovery speed. We don't care about the recovery speed. We'll talk about recovery speed, but it just makes it so it doubles the speed in which you heal recoverable damage. Kind of mediocre, but it's whatever. In our legs, we're going to be putting Constitution Jewels in here. And what these do is reduce fixed stamina depletion by 20% when evading blocking. We do both of those things. We're blocking a lot, we're evading a lot. And the reason why we care to do this is because we have maximum might on this one. For example, this is our Rathalos Greaves. Rathalos Greaves have another weakness exploit. We want to take advantage of weakness exploit, makes sense. But we put a maximum might. Once we get another might jewel and or another slot, we are going to put another maximum might. And what this does is whenever your stamina is kept to full for a period of time, which is, it feels like almost instantly, you get more affinity. Which for the most part, while you're just poking like this, you don't lose any stamina. The only time you lose stamina is whenever you're doing this mode, the power guard, and when you're doing the run move. So most of the time you're able to maintain stamina. As you can see there, the stamina is going back up because it doesn't really do anything, and you're always just poking like this. Like, it doesn't really matter how stamina works, so that's why we're using maximum might. For our talisman, we're using a evade extender. What does the evade extender do? Well, basically just extend your evasion distance. It's gonna be easier to close a gap or just get away from attacks. That's kind of really all it's for. Ideally, you would get another one if you can. and or you can get guard if you want to use that as your accessory or your talisman. That is a good option. With that said, that's pretty much it for the build. Down in the description I will have a Mobalytics link to it so that you have a full-fledged build guide so that you can just watch the written guide. And of course, if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to leave me a like as well as subscribe to the channel for more Monster Hunter Wilds content. I cover pretty much every game you're probably going to play in the next year, so make sure you're subscribed. And just like that, hunters, I'll see you in the next one very soon. I activated it, by the way.
Looks like a good place to set up camp.
It's not. I clicked it.
Do your thing, plundering!
Oh, this feels so good. This feels so good to fight. Oh my god. That feeling when you just parry everything, it's just, oh. Chef's kiss. Holy shit. Yeah, that feels way too good. Fucking chef's kiss. Go sleep, little bro. Go sleep, little bro. No, I don't care. Fight me! Fight me! Get on the ground, boy. You better be tough. Get angry. I want you in your final form. Hey, little bro, I don't care. Let's run it. What?
I'm stuck.
Snap out of it. Heels inbound.
That was cool. Show me your war face. That was so fun.
My part.
That was actually so fun.
This is a rare research opportunity. Can't let it go to waste.
How long was that? Like 9? Oh, 7:30.
Well done.
Damn.
Now let's